So I consider myself a friend, a daughter, and most importantly, I think, a sister to an 11-year-old brother. Now, I know that this might seem like a low-rung responsibility to most of you, but I hope that I'm able to convince you otherwise. See, it's common knowledge that we learn from those around us. What we don't realize, however, is the extent of influence that we can exert on the same people. Now, the thing is, we don't always have to say it. We barely even have to mean it. We learn so much of our shared social behaviors and emotional intelligence from those whom we are surrounded by. In psychology, this is known as the social learning theory. Developed by Albert Bandura in the 1960s, the theory was a slight departure from the research being conducted at the time. See, then, many researchers thought that our behavior was a product of our direct experiences with our environment. Bandura stated, however, that we learn very, very largely by observation. Bandura also supported his theory with the infamous Bobo doll experiment, which also goes to show another really interesting phenomenon, that children exhibit violence and aggression by simply observing it in others around them. The experiment was set up like this. 72 children were selected, with 36 girls and 36 boys. They were further split into 3 groups of 24, with 12 boys and 12 girls each. They were shown 3 different conditions. The first, an aggressive model. The third, a non-aggressive model. The second, a non-aggressive model. And the third served as a control group. Further, they were split to observe either a same-sex model or an opposite-sex model. The aggressive role model was seen kicking, punching, and acting verbally aggressive with the Bobo doll. Now, the non-aggressive model was seen carefully playing with it. The children were exposed to this behavior for 10 minutes, after which they were taken to a room where a very similar-looking Bobo doll was placed in front of them. The researchers observed and recorded each and every move the child made in the room. As hypothesized, children exhibited the same behavior. Those exposed to the aggressive model showed the same behavior, kicking, punching, acting verbally aggressive, than those who were exposed to the non-aggressive model. The boys that were exposed to the male aggressive model actually exhibited the same violent behavior, even going up and picking up guns to shoot the Bobo doll. The girls who observed the female role model were less likely to be physically aggressive, but much more likely to be verbally aggressive than any other group. Bandura concluded that aggression, like many other kinds of behavior, was learned. It was not present innately. Rather, it was learned by observing. This experiment furthered research immensely, with researchers now meticulously examining the effects of observation on behavior. Many realized that they also act as subconscious Bobo dolls, as subconscious Bobo doll actors. I mentioned earlier that I was a sister to an 11-year-old brother, meaning that I also serve in many ways as a Bobo doll actor to him. So why is it that we know so little about the phenomenon? One psychological journal review studied abstracts for studies all the way from 1990 to 2011. They found only 741 citations for sibling relationships. Compare this with the 5,059 citations for friendships, the 8,685 citations for marriage, and the whopping 33,990 citations for parenting. And it becomes very clear that the research is less than telling. However, this isn't an area that has always been ignored by researchers. Starting in the 1950s, researchers were actually able to predict aspects of the social learning theory. They established that siblings hold a very influential place in the household, and that the effect was even enhanced when the siblings were of the same gender. This was not due to any external variables the siblings might have had, but rather direct experiences between the two. From here, research has progressed to understanding that siblings share a unique relationship. They share aspects of both friendship and adult-child interactions, which was demonstrated by Dunn in 1983. Older siblings especially are the role models here. Studies show that even toddlers imitate behavior that is exhibited by an older sibling. So why do we do this? Over and over again, we see that we acquire so much of ourselves through the mundane act of observation. I have to admit, this isn't really the kind of responsibility that I had signed on for when I wished for a younger brother. Now, that being said, I would also argue that we have a very, very strong role and a very important role in the nurturing of well-rounded children. It is the relationships that we're exposed to earliest in life that serve as foundations for our emotional development, our cognitive competencies, and our ability to adjust to new surroundings. As I already mentioned, we share a sort of relationship that is unparalleled to any other. We are their interim parents, their first best friends, and their most cherished and least favorite person at the same time. I was the one that taught my brother not to throw metal cars at people's heads. I also taught him that printers are just sophisticated spawns of evil. Our relationship, it serves as a learning ground that cannot be replicated, which one observational study found also provides very unique opportunities for social cognitive development. The study from Dunn in 1983 also stressed that through our series of arguments over TV remotes and bunk beds, we as siblings actually develop skills in perspective taking, emotion understanding, persuasion, negotiation, and problem solving. These aren't just limited to our relationship either, since it has also been linked to a better emotion understanding and healthier peer relationships in the future. We exert more influence on our siblings than we can ever fully wrap our heads around. And this doesn't just apply to blood siblings either, since an explanation that used genetic similarities and a similar parenting style could explain this behavior. When studies were conducted on adopted siblings, it showed that this sense of influence still held true, which again just goes to show how pervasive the phenomenon is, not tied down by blood or relation. More surprising, however, is that we have a relationship that might even take precedence over the parent-child relationship, which still does not mean that my brother will listen to me any more than he listens to my mom. So, go figure. So, now that we know that we can, that our behavior can influence our siblings and help them to be more emotionally intelligent and well-adjusted, the question still remains. Is there any more that we can do for them? Research believes so, suggesting that we can raise them to be more understanding of themselves. A longitudinal study conducted especially on young siblings used the theory of mind development, a test that indicates how well we are able to view and process emotion and how well we are able to predict it in others. Results showed that children that had 2 or more child siblings consistently scored higher on these tests. We play as serious a role in our siblings' lives as our parents do. And research has shown that we actually indirectly mold our siblings' characteristics, and we serve as sources of social comparison. And that from a very, very young age, our siblings view how they are treated in comparison to us. All of this, I have to add, unconsciously, through simple observation. So, what conclusion should we draw from the information that was presented? Now, obviously, the idea is to serve as a better role model, not just to our siblings, but to everybody else we know. But I'm more interested in the other possibilities that this information could present. The idea that we can unconsciously shape the minds of a young generation and hope to inspire and actively create change by simply championing it ourselves. Now, I think this serves as a very important reminder in the world that we live in today. I believe that we have to speak up and change our efforts towards our climate crisis. I believe that love is love, that everybody is deserving of equality, and that my capabilities are not hindered due to my gender or sex. Today, I see those same ideals reflected in my younger brother. From realizing that pink is not a girly color, to correcting those who believe gay to be an insult. He maintains that his female friends are just as cool and strong and awesome as his male friends. He acknowledges that single-use plastic bottles are no good. He knows all of this without me ever having to say it out loud. This is what I want you to take from me today. To understand that all of our actions work towards a collective goal that is bigger than just us. That the words we use, the things we do, and the actions that we leave behind, all of them teach something to those around us, whether they are our siblings or not, whether we realize it or not, and whether we ever even meant to. It is the understanding of the full scope of our humanity and behavior, and understanding that there is so much more behind seemingly mundane gestures. Here's to hoping that the actions we leave behind, even subconsciously, are something that others can act upon and can build upon. Thank you.